up, boys? Today I just want to come at you with a quick exercise recommendation video, and the exercise in question is going to be the JM press. Now, for those of you that may not know, the JM press is a exercise created by J.M. Blakely, one of the strongest benchers, I think, for his time period. He put up some crazy numbers. I don't really know too much about powerlifting, but I know he's the guy that made it, and he popularized it, and it's caught on because it works. I've had some experience with the exercise recently where I've been seeing some really good results. I just want to talk about it in this video. So the JM press, right, is specifically meant for increasing lockout strength. For those of you that don't know what that might be, it's when you're doing any press and you get the bar off of your chest or off of your shoulders, and it gets to that sticking point where your triceps now have to do that final range of motion and lock out the elbows. So exactly what it sounds like, lockout, right? The JM press is meant to be able to kind of mimic that exact feeling and load it heavily so that you can strengthen that specific kind of movement pattern and function of the elbows and triceps. Now, that being said, the JM press is not a beginner-friendly exercise, and so if you're somebody who has a bench that's under 275 pounds, I don't really recommend that you even bother giving this a try, because you don't really have the tissue capacity, the strength, or kind of conditioning in that area to really see good benefits from it. And I know that from personal experience. I did incorporate it when I was like, 2 years into lifting, and my bench press was like 240 or something like that. Something around that range. And I tried out the JM press, and all I got was, mainly just pain in my elbow, and honestly, it really wasn't working out for me. But yeah, so that's going to be one of the main cons of it, but it is a great exercise. So recently I got to the point that I can do 135 pounds, so like a plate on each side, for 3 sets of 10. And now that I can put up some decent weight, I'm actually seeing some really great results. My lockout is as strong as it's ever been, and my triceps are definitely getting bigger. They're definitely getting stronger. Now, the reason why that is because they've had the time to get developed and conditioned enough to be able to now handle the movement and see its benefits. So that's why I recommend anybody watching this video and considering trying out the JM press to really make sure you go throughout the proper steps of actually being able to handle the movement before you graduate to it, because it isn't, again, beginner friendly at all. Another thing to consider about the JM press when doing it is the size of your arms. One thing about this exercise is that it's not meant to be a large range of motion exercise. It's actually specifically designed to work within a limited range of motion that is very specific to the function of locking out in the bench press. So for example, if you're somebody whose arms are relatively on the smaller side, especially your forearms and bicep, when doing the JM press, you have to understand it's a movement. This is the movement right here, right? There's that distance between your bicep and your forearm, where if either area is small, the distance becomes larger. The larger that distance becomes, the more stress you put on the elbow. So you do want to make sure that you have large size of bicep and forearm before you actually load this movement heavily and try to go for PRs and things like that with the JM press. A good kind of sweet spot you want to be in is having like 16-inch arms bare minimum and 13-inch forearms bare minimum. That gives you it's not like exact, really. There's no exact measurements that are going to be like better than others per se, and who knows, maybe your anthropometry is different, and because of that you handle it better. But bar none, you can't be doing this if you got noodle arms. Okay, if you got noodle arms, no JM pressing for you. Just wait till your arms are big enough to be able to handle this movement. Now, let's get into some of the pros of the JM press. Obviously, one of the main ones is the stronger you get at it, the stronger you become at benching in general. Now, if you don't know, the JM press is essentially like a cross between a skull crusher and a close grip bench press. And when you kind of combine those two movements, you come down like this, as if it is a regular bench press, but then you slowly skew that bar path into the chin kind of area here. Some people like to go a little higher. Me personally, I like to go down to the chin, kind of like Adam's apple distance area here. and sink it as far as I can, and then I press that up. And that's kind of a specific way of training for increasing lockout during the bench press, and it works really, really effectively. Now, because of the nature of the lift being a cross between a skull crusher and a close grip bench press, the loading potential for this exercise becomes exponentially higher than any other tricep isolation movement you could possibly do. Bar none, the JM press will definitely be the heaviest tricep movement you could possibly do, where that much of the stimulus is shifted to the triceps specifically. So keep that in mind. That's one of the main benefits of it, in my opinion, where something like a skull crusher can eventually become a little too hard to load, get into position, and harsh on the elbows. Something like a jam press is a very relatively simple exercise to set up, and you can go very goddamn heavy on it. I mean, I think once, because I believe there are people who have been strong enough at it, once you reach a certain level, they're like doing jam press with like 315 pounds. Which is insane. I mean, how often are you seeing people like do skull crushers with that, or overhead extensions or anything like that with 315 pounds? So that's one of the main things about it that I think is very beneficial for also adding some serious size to your arms, because allowing such a small muscle to experience so much load is I think very crucial for really adding some serious size to it, especially something like the triceps, where their strength potential is so much higher in most cases than the bicep. I believe that you can build some brutal strength in your triceps, and like there's the size potential in that area in particular is just so much exponentially higher than what most people really consider. And the jam press is a great way to kind of like get that out of the muscle. The movement can also be adjusted to fit your limb lengths and individual kind of differences in everybody's body, because if one version of it hurts, your wrist, your elbows, or whatever else, you can find a different variation that may work better. Like, for example, a lot of people will maybe have some issues with the straight bar, and what they'll do is they'll get the SSB squat bar, and they'll use that instead, and then it feels better for them. Or maybe some sort of a Olympic-sized easy bar, they'll use that, or a camber bar, or like one of those Swiss bars, whatever it may be. They can always find some sort of a variation that fits their needs and a range of motion that works with them as well. It's not really one size fits all, so you will have to go through a little bit of a experimental phase with it, where you find out what works and what doesn't, and then past that point, you'll start seeing some good results, but initially, you do have to finagle with it a little bit. Now, the cons, obviously, for the jam press are going to come down to the fact that they're tough on your elbows, and they are also not beginner friendly. I think I've covered that a lot throughout the video already. This is not a beginner friendly movement. It's not a beginner movement at all. So again, if you are somebody who is not at least 2-3 years into lifting, and your pressing strength isn't at least in the mid 200s, this will not be a good idea to incorporate into your training routine. This is just simply an informative video to kind of give you an exercise recommendation for an eventual issue that you might have. I developed a lockout issue. I have a horrendous lockout issue. I'm great off the chest, I'm great off the shoulders, but no matter what the case may be, I'm always failing at lockout. And the JM press is helping me fix that quite a bit. And so I'm able to now see the benefits of it and kind of see the fruits of my labor on that particular exercise. Now, does that make it an exercise worth doing? In my opinion, it absolutely does. It just requires a certain set of circumstances to be met first, and then past that point, it's amazing. But do keep in mind, it isn't something that you can just run like year-round, month after month, like the entire time, because it is harsh on your elbows, and eventually you will have to kind of ease off on them, rotate into a different variation, and sort of like come back to it at some point. But for the time being that you can handle doing the movement, you can make a lot of progress, and you can definitely add some serious strength and size to your triceps, depending on your training goals during that specific phase of your training. I want to get a stronger bench press, I want to get a stronger overhead press, and the jam press kind of like kills two birds with one stone on that. So it works out perfectly. If it aligns with your goals and you're somebody who meets those set of circumstances, I highly recommend you give the JM press a shot. I think it's a great exercise, and something worth considering for sure. And I think it's a great exercise for people who are looking to fully maximize the size potential of their triceps and build some brutally big, strong arms. Alright, well that's enough for this video, you guys. If you enjoyed this video and watched it all the way through, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know how you felt about it, what you think, what your input is, if you've tried this exercise, what your experience has been. I'd love to know. Also, if you'd like to, help me out, leave a like and share the video as well, which can, help the algorithm and get the channel more recommended and allow me to grow further, quicker, reach more people. It does a lot for me, more than you'll ever know. So any of that's, super appreciated. Thank you for your time today. You have a great rest of your day. And as always, bye.